Before the pandemic, 3 out of 5 of all federal student loan borrowers were not making payments. That's 60%. What do you think it's going to be when they try to turn this lending system back on? Is it going to be 70% not paying? Yeah. Is it going to be 75% won't pay? Yeah. Is it going to be 80%? Maybe. My best estimate is that whenever they try and turn these loans back on, something like 80% of all borrowers will not pay, perhaps more. So if you're watching this broadcast, you're probably one of those people who will not resume paying on their student loans. Everybody's going to make their own decision, obviously. But I will just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that tonight's podcast is designed to look out as best as we can over the next few months to try and figure out what the F is going on. So let me first of all say, welcome to Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, largest, first, and only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. We're fighting for two things. We're fighting for the cancellation of all federally owned student loans. The president can do this without congressional approval, without congressional appropriation, without needing a dime from the Treasury, without adding a penny to the national debt. Quite frankly, Donald Trump should have canceled the whole entire lending program back years ago. We're fighting for that. It's got to happen. The lending system has catastrophically failed by all rational metrics. We're also fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, take my word for it. We've been doing this since 2005. We've been studying this problem very closely for 18 years now. And I'm here to tell you that as a practical matter, we have got to get the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side before we're going to see anything meaningful from this president or the next. So welcome. We're glad that you found us. If you're new to the group, as I said, welcome. You would do well to maybe go to our Medium platform if you are new to the group and have a look at a couple of our recent articles. They're easy to read. Most people that come to this group for the first time, they don't know almost anything about student loans, and that's except that they have them and that they suck, and that's completely understandable. But if you look down there, you can, if you look there, you can see our Medium platform. We post very good, very relevant, very timely research there, as well as opinion pieces as well. If you read just a few of those articles, it'll hopefully begin to sink in for you why getting the leverage of bankruptcy rights returned are so important. Nobody wants to file. Very few people should actually have to file when we get the right returned. Until we have that toothpick of power on our side, though, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be begging Joe Biden or the next president forever and ever to do nice things for us, and they will not do nice things for us because the lending program is predatory to its core. These are not good people running this program. I'm sorry to have to break the news to you. So I've got a couple of announcements before I begin. I'm going to keep it really short tonight, by the way. Number one, we still need to raise a little bit of money for the SLJ van. We've raised enough to actually get the van, but we now need to fly south of northern Wisconsin out of the Rust Belt to actually get a good rust-free vehicle, and hopefully at a really good price. So if you would please go and pitch in for that, if you appreciate everything that we have done, everything that we are doing, everything that we're poised to get done, please help. Second announcement, we're expecting a number of additional letters to the editor to be published across the country. We urge everyone to write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper and read a few of our examples, and I can point those out to you at some point if you PM me or something. We've gotten like 20 published so far. I would love to get hundreds and hundreds published, guys. This is exactly what will win this battle for us. So, and by the way, if you have any questions or comments, and I can see them on either Facebook or Twitter, throw them out, because tonight I just want to talk a little bit about stuff you might want to be aware of going forward. And, it's funny. If you read Forbes magazine, for example, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, this is going to happen. That's going to happen." And then you look back like 2 years or maybe even a year after they write that nonsense, and you go, "Huh, you were absolutely, completely asinine, batshit crazy on that. Like you were completely wrong." And yet you still write at Forbes with a straight face. Nobody knows what's going to happen to this lending program, guys. Lending systems, one thing I can tell you without a doubt, without even a hint of pause in my voice, this federal student loan program is catastrophically failed. It's more failed than any lending system we've ever seen before in the United States of America. It is far more failed than the subprime home mortgages. It is far more failed than S&L loans back in the 1980s. We've never seen anything like this. So anybody telling you that they know what's going to happen, they're trying to sell you something. And the people at Forbes, make no mistake, and I'm just using Forbes as one particularly bad example, a good example of bad writing, of bad reporting on this issue. People at Forbes magazine make money. Their actual day jobs are making money out of the student loan scam. So everything they write is towards keeping this lending behemoth going. And there's nothing that they can write at this point to keep this thing going. But hey, they still try. I give them an A for effort. But if you don't believe me, I'm happy to describe to you why that is. I would maybe also point you to a very quick article, bit.ly.ly, and you can see this on our Medium feed. Student loans finished, all one word, lowercase, bit.ly/student loans finished. And I will spare you the details right now, but it's like the comedian John Mulaney says, it's kind of like we have a horse in a hospital. Like nobody knows what's going to happen, least of all the horse. Like the people at the Department of Education, they have no idea what they're going to do. They have no idea. And this was true going back to the heat of the pandemic. They have no idea what they're going to do. They've got a few northern lights that they sort of think they should work towards. And that is keeping the lending system legitimate. And unfortunately, I think that is a ship that has sailed. I don't think there's any way to salvage any legitimacy in this lending system. The people and what the people think means everything about the validity and legitimacy of this lending system. And when 60% of the people have stopped paying, Houston, we have a major, major, major problem. But as I said, we've been living and breathing this issue for many, many years, and there's a few things that I can tell you, just a few practical things that people need to be aware of. We all know about the Supreme Court that's winding through. We're not impressed at all with that student loan cancellation. Believe it or not, student loan cancellation by executive order started. The concept was initially launched into the public conversation by this group with our petition. Maybe you signed it. It's got over 1 million people on it now, 1.2 million people. And so you would think that we would be patting ourselves on the back because we now have a sitting president having called for student loan cancellation by executive order. We're not. It's crap. Biden's loan cancellation gimmick was nothing more than a ploy to get votes. It doesn't help the worst hurt borrowers. If you owe less than $10,000 on your student loans, you're probably not on this group. So frankly, it was an insult. But having said that, it does carry a few ramifications with us, and that is with regards to the repayment pause, because after the Supreme Court offers its ruling on, and I don't even want to talk about how lame and how just ridiculous and frivolous the lawsuits are, but bad politics in this country being what they are, it could go either way. I don't really even want to talk about it beyond saying the whole thing is just one big stupid distraction in the first place, whichever way that court case goes. But we can play that game if you want. As I said, if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to explore that area with you. But the most important thing that I have to say tonight, really, guys, is that no matter how those court cases go, we are going to see these loans turn back on. In other words, and this is the first time I've said this, but I see no possible way that the Biden administration will extend the repayment pause past either the Supreme Court ruling or September 1st, whichever comes first. I think the Supreme Court ruling is probably going to come first, so a few weeks after that, whatever. I see no legitimate way that the Biden administration can justify extending the repayment pause at this point. They would have to declare a national emergency. COVID is over. So as a practical matter, no matter what happens with the Supreme Court case, the loans are going to be turned back on, and you probably are going to be getting some letters and phone calls and so forth, asking you to do a number of things. Who knows what those will be, but I know that number one will be to pay. Number two, you'll probably get just an avalanche of junk mail from people wanting you to consolidate your loans into the direct loan program or rehabilitate your loans out of default, and all manner of loan contrivances where at the end of the day, they want you to sign for a new loan, and they will promise some benefit like your loans will be taken out of default and we'll report that on your credit record. And, I try very hard to not, I don't like to tell people what to do with their loans, but I will just speak for myself and say that probably, in my humble opinion, probably the dumbest thing that anybody is, particularly if you're an older person who've been living maybe in default for many years, or you've been struggling with your loans for many years or decades, signing for a new loan is not smart, in my humble opinion. Putting your signature onto a brand new loan only restarts years or decades of the same nonsense that you've already been living through. So I personally am a defaulted student loan borrower, so I think I know what of I speak. And this is rearranging deck chairs, ladies and gentlemen. You have to remember the bigger picture, and that is that the lending system is catastrophically failed. And if you ever pay another dollar on your federal student loans, you're going to be in the minority, probably the large minority of all borrowers. So again, in my humble opinion, it is not only unwise, I think it's unpatriotic for anyone to pay another dollar into this unconstitutional, predatory loan scam. This loan scam needs to be taken to the bath and drowned in the tub. But I digress. My original point is this, guys. The loans will be turned back on. You will be pressured in every kind of different way by both the government and their slimy little snaky, swampy contractors and every Tom, Dick, and Harry that wants to put a shingle out. Loan coaches, student loan lawyers, all these people trying to make money off of your ass. So you will be hit in the face with this left and right. Now, remember also, or maybe I should say this, and this is the most important question I have for you tonight. Now, hopefully you already know that unlike every other loan in this country, student loans have been uniquely stripped of bankruptcy rights. This lies at the core of the whole entire student loan problem. Getting bankruptcy back is way more important than this nonsense Biden cancellation. So, when they turn the loans back on, just put yourself in your shoes. This is not a huge leap of imagination that you need to take here. When they turn the loans back on, would you rather face that reality with the standard bankruptcy protections that exist for every other type of loan, credit cards, you name it, home loan, auto loans, you name it. Would you rather face that reality with at least that floor toothpick of power in your back pocket if push comes to shove? Or would you rather face that reality still naked and afraid and vulnerable and essentially with your ass up in the air on the table for any manner of student loan miscreants to wreak havoc with your financial life and maybe your livelihood, certainly. hopefully, no matter what your situation is on your student loans, whether you would ever or never filed is not the question. Would you not much rather have the power, the constitutionally enshrined power of bankruptcy, as it exists for all other loans, at least in your back pocket, to give you a tiny bit of peace of mind and a tiny bit of confidence that these loans aren't going to wreck your life for the rest of your life if things get really weird with the student loan program? And they very well may, guys. Remember, the collection industry, the servicing industry, they have not been making much money at all over the past 3 years. And they are chomping at the bit to get these loans turned back on. Like, people are actually not good people, very bad people. Industry operatives and NGOs and swamp think tanks in Washington, D.C., and a whole nest of student loan vipers, the bad guys. They are even suing to get these loans turned back on. They're actually suing the Biden administration. I'm speaking of SoFi, Anthony Nato, people like that. So they are chomping at the bit to get your money. And, even before COVID, this thing was a feeding frenzy where the student loan sharks had us over a barrel and they were eating us for lunch. Well, all of that is going to come back. The only difference is the sharks are going to be far, far hungrier now than they were. Like, I haven't looked at the stock prices of some of these companies like Navient and so forth, but Nelnet. But I would imagine their stock has not done extremely well over the past, 3 years during COVID. These people are sociopaths. They don't care about you. The only thing they care about you is how much money they can get out of you, and is there any way they can possibly get more? They have their shareholders to worry about, and their bonuses and their corporate stock and all that bullshit. So ask yourself that question. Would you rather have bankruptcy on your side when this door is opened and we are unleashed to the wolves and we are thrown to the wolves? Or would you rather still be naked, vulnerable, and afraid, and your shit is right out there for them to come snatch? Well, I hope that you agree with me that you want the first thing. You want our constitutional bankruptcy rights returned. And if you do, then you need to fight with a huge amount of effort. Way more effort. And I don't mean to yell, but this makes me angry. You need to fight. This is your problem. And we've been doing this for 18 years. We've been fighting for bankruptcy for 18 of those 18 years. We've only been fighting for cancellation for the past 3 or 4 years. You've got to fight harder. You've got to own this problem. And this is not a group that's here for your entertainment. If you want to be entertained, then go to any one of those other nonsense bullshit groups where they will very happily sit you down. They'll give you a box of popcorn, and you can eat popcorn and watch them pretend to fight for you. And in the meanwhile, you will be approached by debt coaches, student loan lawyers. You will be pressured to consolidate, rehabilitate, do other things to your loan with your loans that will make them and their friends money. That's kind of how that works, guys. We don't play that bullshit game on this group. We're a working, fighting group. And so if you want a soft landing as this lending system fails, you better damn for sure want to be fighting and get off your ass and actually fight with us. We're not, as I said, we're not here for your entertainment. Everybody's got to put their own work in on this group. Call that tough love. You call it whatever you want. But the reality is, these are your loans. This is your problem. Nobody's going to fight for you. Now, having said that, we've made some great strides. We came quite close last session to finally getting bankruptcy rights returned. We had a great bill in the Senate, S-2598. I'm not going to talk too long about that because it no longer matters. The bill did not pass. I think that's the most important thing that you need to know. Quite frankly, the Democrats betrayed us, and we're a nonpartisan group. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're very welcome on this group. We pretty much hate both parties at this point. But I just have to tell it like it is. The Democrats betrayed us blatantly. like very viciously and cruelly betrayed us last semester or last congressional session. We hate both parties, guys, in different ways. It's kind of like the Democrats are frenemies and the Republicans are just straight up assholes type of deal. But we did come close, so there is that. But on any given day, I only saw a couple hundred people on this group doing anything. Now we've got over 1 million people in our group, theoretically, on paper. So I'm just here to tell you, if you actually want to see this problem solved, you're in the right place. So I'm glad that you found us. And this actually absolutely is the right group to be at to fight this fight in a way where we can actually win. And maybe the most important policy thing I will tell you, we won't see meaningful student loan cancellation unless and until we get the threat of the leverage of bankruptcy return. We will see very meaningful, very, very widespread loan cancellation and all manner of other very good things like breaks on interest, like negotiated settlements, like all sorts of good, very good things we will see. Maybe even total student loan cancellation. As I said, the student loan program is so catastrophically failed at this point. The people in Washington, D.C. may finally be compelled to say, you know what, time to pull the plug on this guy. There is no baby left. It's all bathwater, and just end the loans, end the lending program. That, frankly, I think is the smartest thing to do for everybody involved. Most importantly, the country and the taxpayers. But we won't know until we get that right returned. So we got close last session. We expect another bill to come out. I had said in the next couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, because that's what I had heard from someone, but I know a little better now. We probably won't see that bill come out anytime super soon, like probably not in the next 2 weeks. In fact, we may not see our bill come out again until after the Supreme Court decision, because there's a lot of the nonsense in Washington around the student loan issue actually is sort of predicated on the Supreme Court thing. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point is, we have got to fight like we've never fought before for the return of constitutional bankruptcy rights to these loans. We came close last session, but we didn't quite get it over the top. We've got a lot of Republicans now, and I should say we're a nonpartisan group. Historically, the Republicans have opposed us on almost everything, and here today that's still true, certainly on student loan cancellation. But last session we saw some leading Republicans, even some MAGA Republicans, jump onto our side, and in fact even sponsor our legislation. People like Josh Hawley, John Cornyn in Texas, and others. So I can tell you that we are right there in the mix, and I don't want to start going down all the different permutations of decision paths with you, but if the Supreme Court okays the loan cancellation, who knows what's going to happen. But if the Supreme Court does not okay the cancellation, if they deny the cancellation, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people in the world, and they're going to all be in our group. And I think Congress will be strongly inclined to want to return bankruptcy at a minimum. I mean, we've got people from, and I'm talking about on the conservative side now. And again, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you're very welcome here. We hate both parties, but the fact is, we need Republicans this session to make this happen. Republicans in the House. And we've seen several Republicans in the House come our way. Last session, we've seen people from the Federalist Society, from the Cato Institute, from George Mason University, from the National Review, all call for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. So there's a very, very, very realistic chance that we can get this done. But Guys, I'm just going to say one last time before I go to your questions and comments. We've been doing this for 18 years, dudes. And I can tell you that the one thing that we've been missing all this time are people, are you actually helping us every day. Maybe not every day, but at least a few times a week, putting some significant energy into this battle. People. You know, if congressmen don't feel heat from their constituents, they're just not going to do anything. They're not. And we've got a massive muscle to flex. We've got a fucking army at our fingertips, should they choose to activate themselves. We can't tell anybody what to do. This is a 100% volunteer group, always has been, always will be. But you need to think very carefully to yourself. Are you going to be lazy? Are you going to expect that this problem is going to solve itself? Because I can guarantee you that will not happen. That has never happened. I don't think it will ever happen in this space because there's just too many people aligned against us. When you help, and when even 10% of the people in our group help, we will solve this problem. I kid you not. This group right here. I don't care about the other groups. The other groups are just out to lunch by and large. But we will solve this problem. We've got 1.4 million people on our group across all our platforms. If 10% of those people were doing, for example, our daily actions, which I will dial in for you again here. If even 10% of the people were doing our daily actions, that would be 140,000 people every day, overwhelming the phone banks in Washington, D.C., overwhelming the Twitter accounts of whoever we target. That would solve this problem. We would get our bankruptcy rights back. And after that, they'd pretty much have to cancel loans, or else they'd have to preside over the largest wave of bankruptcy filings in American history. No president's going to do that. Department of Education is not, nobody's going to let that happen. We've got to get the right of bankruptcy returned. It's our strongest argument, and it's the most efficient, most effective way to see anything good beyond that. If you want your loans canceled, you got to fight for bankruptcy. If you want to see your interest reduced, you got to fight for bankruptcy. If you want to see some other, middling settlement for your loan situation, you got to fight for bankruptcy. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. Very few people, maybe even no one, should actually have to file when we get the right returned. It's just having the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side is what is so important. There's a good reason the founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws ahead of the power to declare war in the Constitution. And this is it. This student loan catastrophe is exactly the sort of tyranny that the founding fathers wanted to avoid. So, okay, I am going to look for your comments now, and I think we'll just wrap it up quickly after that. We're probably a little over time at this point. But I hope everybody's doing well in the world. I'm very optimistic and very positive. And I know I come off as being angry and pissed off sometimes, and that's true. But there certainly is every reason to be very optimistic, guys. But again, it starts with you. The thing that makes me angry is when I see people doing nothing. That makes me angry because I work very hard doing this. And people like Lisa Ansel, who I see is on the group tonight, work very hard doing this. And they're just normal people. Like, I'm just a normal person. Lisa's a normal person. And I could start naming names, but we'd be here all night. Many people are working hard on this issue. And they're all just normal people. From truck drivers to Harvard educated educators and Democrats, Republicans, you name it. We've got all stripes, all colors of normal people on this group. And a lot of them are fighting really hard every day. You know, we've got people who are so severely handicapped, they have to eat food through a tube. And yet they are doing our daily actions. So you're not better than us, I guess, is my point. And quite frankly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself if you think that you can count or that you think that somebody else should pull your weight for you. Nobody's going to fight. So, having said that, we've made weight for you. So you know what, guys? I see one comment here from Lisa. Lisa Ansel, speaking of Lisa, hey, Lisa. Just reiterates what I haven't said tonight, but this is another one of our big projects. Lisa says, please reach out to your congressmen and senators and request a meeting. Like, it's not that hard to do. And this is one of the major projects that we're doing at the first half of this year. We would like to get in conferences, phone conferences, Zoom conferences with every sitting member of Congress. So that's 435 members of the House and 100 senators. So 535 people. You have 3 of those. You've got 2 senators and you've got 1 House rep. We're asking you, if you do nothing else, call both of your senators and your House rep and ask them for a meeting, ideally with their judiciary staffer. Tell them you would like to talk about student loans, and tell them that you would like to bring someone in from this group, studentloanjustice.org, a grassroots group. You can give them my name. That's fine. Alan Collins, AlanCollinge. Phone number 202-594-1120. Email alan@studentloanjustice.org. Give them my contact info, and make that happen. So that's really all that you need to do. I will do all the talking if I have to. I would hope and appreciate if you wanted to say something, if you wanted to lead the meeting, that would be fine and great. But if you don't, that's fine. Just that bare minimum effort is absolutely fine. If you set them up, I'll knock them down. If you pick the fight, I will throw the punches. And quite frankly, if you have Republican senators and congressmen, that's even better. We would frankly rather talk to them than Democrats, just because we fight on this crew. We like to go into the lion's den. We like to get hit with all the tough questions. We like to convince the opposition. We don't like to preach to the choir so much. And I'm not saying the Democrats are really terrible, guys. I'm telling you guys, they betrayed us. Democrats are against us. The Republicans tend to be against us in different ways, though. It's kind of a good cop, bad cop thing. But right now, it does absolutely depend on Republicans in the House. I think we can. Well, I'm not going to say more than that. I'm only going to repeat what Lisa just said. Get us into a meeting with both of your senators and your congressmen. Now, if we wind up meeting with some senators twice or 5 times or 10 times, that's fine. That's even better. Let's overwhelm them. But I'm telling you guys, there's some law of large numbers for big groups where it's like the bigger the group is, the less the individual members do. And that fucking kills us, guys. Because as I said, in the past, since January, on any given day, I don't see more than a couple hundred people doing our stuff. And that is just not even close to enough. You can't expect anyone to pull your weight on this group. And that's always been true. And Lisa says, if she can help, let her know. Lisa Ansel, you can see her on the Facebook group, Facebook chat. Lisa has single-handedly honchoed, I think, 4 or 5 conferences with congressmen, senators, etc., congresspeople. It's not hard to do, but it starts with you. And we need you to do this. And you need everyone to do this if you actually want to solve the student loan problem. I, for one, want to solve this problem. We're not poverty pimps. We're not like all these nonsense groups in Washington, D.C. that are, they don't actually want to solve this problem. They want to make money off of this problem for as long as they possibly can. I want these fucking loans gone. I want them gone. I want to move on with my life, and I hope that you do too. And if you do, then I'm glad you found us. If you have no desire or intentions of fighting with us, then boom, there's the door. Hit the bricks. We don't want you here. You're bad karma. If you're into this fight with us, then we love you and we're glad you're here, and we'll do everything we can do to support you in your efforts. So, okay, guys, I've gone a little further than I was planning tonight, a little longer. I apologize for that. But have a good weekend. This group never sleeps. We're 24/7 dudes. Maybe the last thing that I will say is, again, if you could pitch in for the SLJ van, I'd appreciate it. We've raised enough for the van itself, but we still need to raise just a little bit to actually get to like Nashville or North Texas or somewhere where the cars are not rusty and we can buy a good van and drive it back to Wisconsin. So please help there if you can. And I'll be back on Sunday night. And who knows, guys? This problem is things are breaking very quickly around this problem. So stay tuned. And join us in this fight. It's fun to fight this fight. All we do is tell the truth. I sleep like a baby at night. I think Lisa hopefully does as well. It feels very good and cathartic to fight this fight. And we're winning. And we can only win when you help us. So you have no idea how important you are, in the immortal words of fictionary hero John Connor of Terminator Salvation fame. This is your fight, guys. Let's get it done. So I'll see you Sunday. Good night. Godspeed in doing those daily actions and stuff, and getting up to speed on reading our articles. All that stuff I said earlier. Godspeed, and God bless everyone.